Hey there, art nerds. Today we're taking a look at the Supervision 12 watercolor metal set half pans professional. So I purchased this off of AliExpress. You guys have seen me talk about Supervision watercolors in the past. I really liked what I saw the first time, so I'm back for even more, and I hope you guys are looking forward to this one. So not too long ago, I talked about the Supervision YCM set. So it is yellow, cyan, and magenta. This is their professional line. They also have a studio line. I really liked what I saw with the Supervision professional watercolors. So I also tried some of their granulating colors, which I have right here, as well as some of their mineral-based colors, which I have right here. And these were all reviewed together in a Supervision Super Swatch Off. Today, I'd like to just focus on the 12 half pan set that you guys see here. I'm expecting great things from Supervision since I have enjoyed I did enjoy the last review, and I think you guys should expect great things too. So this set was purchased off of AliExpress. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be available anymore. They have different sets, so I will link those in the description below. I think this might be because this might be a anniversary set, the 2018 anniversary set, and I just happened to get lucky. I did order this from the Dingy boutique store. This is a AliExpress vendor I've ordered a lot of watercolor stuff from before, and I've always been pretty happy with what I've gotten from them. So I'm fairly certain this is the real deal and it should perform pretty well, and I'll link them down in the description below. Of course, I do want to caveat before we really dive into this, this was not a sponsored review. I purchased this set out of my own pocket using funds from my Patreon, so if you enjoy the work I do and you want to help me continue to do it, a great way to do that would be to join me over on Patreon at patreon.com/natosoup. So we've got some exterior packaging. This set has been shrink wrapped. I have not broken that shrink wrapping yet. And it says honey, so I imagine honey would be the humectant, which would mean these would be very quick to activate. And it does say 12 colors, but then over here we get 10-year special 12 plus 2 colors. So I would assume this might be a 14 color set. They do have sets in other sizes available. From shaking this, it sounds like it's probably a metal tin inside, but I believe the sets they have available right now have the wooden veneer or the wooden lacquer on them, so they look to be a little bit nicer than this set. But you know, this could be one of the wooden ones, and I just wouldn't know. Wouldn't know. Ba-doom boom. So unfortunately, we've got a sticker here covering what looks to be the English translation, which is a real shame because I can't read any of the other languages. I can only read English. So I'm going to do my best to translate this. If you have this set and your sticker isn't on top of your English translation, let me know what it says. It looks like it's a list of ingredients, which makes me even sadder that they opted to cover it up. Well, this is going to be a bit of a challenge to get out of the package because it's in here pretty tight. Don't want to ruin the cardboard box if I can help it. Okay. So it does seem like a pretty standard black metal palette. Inside we have our informational brochure. We'll get back to that in a minute. And then we have our 12 plus 2 colors. Nice, Supervision. And all of them are individually wrapped. This is also the sort of metal palette that has one of these little thumb rings in case you want to take this out into the field and do some plein air sketching. So usually with my art supply reviews, I read all of the additional paperwork first and then we get into the paints. I want to try shaking things up a little bit. We're going to start with the paints and then we're going to end with the paperwork. And I know I'm going to lose a lot of y'all before we get to the paperwork, so let's just call that a bonus for super nerds like me who really want to know all the info, all the skinny on Supervision professional watercolors. Now, I do believe, yeah, this is all written in Chinese. So we are going, because they sent this packet with that little 3 set, so I'm a little bit familiar with it. We're going to use Google Translate towards the end of our time together to translate this, and unfortunately to translate this, because as you guys can see, they hid the English translation with the Chinese translation. But of course, to be able to review these at all, we are gonna have to get them on. In this 14 color set, we received P1502 Series 1, that's lemon yellow. It's a light fastness of 6. It's fully transparent and it's using PY3 as the pigment. P1503, another Series 1, it's primary yellow. It's a light fastness of 7. It's fully transparent and it's using PY1 as the pigment. P1508, which is Series 4, it is SF red. It's Series 4, like I mentioned, light fastness of 8. It is fully transparent, or fully opaque, I apologize, and it's using PR254. We have P1510, which is Series 3, so it's a Quin Magenta. It's Series S3. It has a light fastness of 8. It's fully transparent, and it's using PR122. We have P1528, which is Series 3. It's Permanent Violet. It's a light fastness of 7. It is semi-opaque, and it's using PV23 as the pigment. We have P1512, which is a Series 1. Permanent green yellow. It's a light fastness of 6. It's fully transparent and it's made using PY12 and PG7. We have P1529 Series 1 Sky Blue. This is one of our 2 bonus colors. It has a light fastness of 6. It's semi-opaque and it's made using PB17. We have P1549, which is a Series 1 watercolor. This is Turquoise Pale, one of the other 2 free bonus colors. This is a light fastness of 5. It's semi-opaque. It's made using PB15, PG7, and PW6. We have P1513, a Series 1 watercolor, Phthalo Green. It has a light fastness of 7. It is fully transparent and it's made using PG7. We have P1518, another Series 1 watercolor, Ultramarine. It has a light fastness rating of 8. It is semi-transparent and it's made using PB29. We have P1519, a Series 2 color. This is Phthalo Blue. It has a light fastness of 8. It is fully transparent and it's made using PB15. We have P1545, a Series 2 watercolor, Gold Ochre, has a light fastness of 8. It is fully transparent and it's made using PY43. We have P1530, a Series 7 watercolor. This is Burnt Sienna. It has a light fast rating of 8. It is fully transparent and it's made using PR101. And finally, we have P1528, a Series 1 watercolor. This is their Payne's Gray. It has a light fastness of 7. It is semi-transparent and is made using PBK7. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. This set does not include any whites. And while it took a while to unwrap and did create a fair amount of crunchy plastic waste, I do have to say I generally like Supervision's packaging. I like that I can reuse that belly band and put it on my half pans, which makes reordering colors a lot easier and it makes keeping my palette organized very easy. I also noticed, I only really noticed one kind of weird thing, maybe two. The first weird thing is there is I put this in backwards, so that's a weird thing, but that's not actually where I was going with that. Let's fix it. All right. So the first weird thing I noticed is that their Payne's Gray is just PBK 7, so it's a black pigment, rather than usually Payne's Gray is a mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine, and it's just a convenience color. I actually don't mind the inclusion of a Payne's Gray in a palette like this. I think personally it's more useful than including black, because Payne's Gray can be used to mix neutral tints as well. So, you know, I'm fine with the inclusion of Payne's Gray. I just thought it was kind of weird that it's a PBK 7 that's normally used for, I want to say like ivory black, but you guys let me know down in the comments. The other kind of weird thing, but it's not really that weird, is they included a phthalo green instead of a viridian green, but I prefer phthalo green because true viridian has some difficulty reactivating, so to me it's just kind of a wasted color. If you guys watch my Rembrandt review, I complain about it there. So I do love me some good, cool blues, and I think phthalo is a little more useful for me than viridian, especially like Winsor & Newton's viridian is like this weird like candy green, like spearmint snowball color, and phthalo green is a little warmer than that. So for me, it's a really useful color, and I'm glad they included it. Something I also thought was not weird but interesting is that the 2 bonus colors for this anniversary set, and I think that is why we can't find it anymore. It was an anniversary set. They do have other sets, like I said, and I'll link those. But the 2 bonus colors are sky blue and turquoise blue. And I'm so super duper sorry that my camera's freaking out. Sorry, y'all. And I happen to like those colors. Those are unusual colors. Would those be colors that I would have chosen to include if I was picking my own set? No. Am I going to use those colors? Yes. Sometimes I appreciate when companies do what I wouldn't do, because it means I get different colors and I get better colors. But other than that, I think it's a pretty decent selection of colors. Of course, the only way we're really going to find that out is by swatching these puppies. So let's go ahead and go do that. So for our unbox and swatch, we are going to be using the Blick Studio watercolor paper. You guys have seen me use this paper many times. This is a block bound cotton rag watercolor paper that, like so many things on this channel, I do purchase out of pocket. So again, since this is a consumable, if you guys enjoy what I do here on the channel and you want me to continue to do these kind of reviews, it'd really mean a lot to me if you did consider joining me over on Patreon. So we are testing for a few different properties today. Opacity is one of them, and usually I use a Copic sketch marker to help me test for opacity. All right, so we've got our lines drawn in the sand. Now I am going to pre-activate my little half pans with a drop of water. These are honey based, so they should just suck that water right up. And honestly, in the future, with them being honey based, I may not even need to pre-activate them, since honey is hydrophilic. It loves water and it should reactivate pretty readily. But I'm going to give these a chance just to soak up all that watery goodness. For today's swatch test, we're going to be using a Cotman flat, and these are the properties I'm looking for. I'm looking at activation time, we're looking at granulation, opacity, ease of use, liftability, and chalkiness in the water, and this is something I'm going to do in time lapse. So these are still wet, but I did have some observations that I wanted to go ahead and share. These are very easy to activate. They accept water readily and don't require scrubbing to get color. Couple of exceptions there though. The gold ochre and the burnt sienna are both kind of light for what they are, and the phthalo green is a little bit more like a viridian in terms of activation than I'd really like. They're not overly chalky. They didn't overly muddy my water, so they're probably not chock-a-block full of optical brighteners and extenders to kind of make the paints a little bit cheaper. It seems like they're full of pigment. The color is very bright and luminous. We'll definitely see if that changes as they dry, but going down, it was like wham, loads of color, which I like, and I think some of you guys like that as well. And honestly, that Payne's gray is basically black. So I'm gonna give these a chance to dry, then I'll do the mass tone swatches, and then we'll do a little bit of color mixing. These are still drying. It's a fairly humid night, so I'm not really surprised by that. But I do want to go ahead and do the mass tone swatches, at least where I can. So some of these are still wet from the initial pre-activation. Some of them have dried out a little bit, but I'm really not concerned that these are going to take a while. They seem to activate very quickly and they tend to be pretty responsive. So I'm actually really looking forward to doing some color mixing with these because they seem like they're probably a lot of fun to paint with. And those of you who watch my channel frequently, you know a couple things about me. One, you know I am a watercolor comic artist, so I don't focus on fine art watercolor. I actually focus on watercolor for illustration and comics. So everything that I review, every aspect of my review kind of reflects that. But I do try to keep my initial unbox and swatch video open enough that even if you're not an illustrator or a comic artist, you'll find it useful, helpful, and informative. The other thing you'll know if you hang around the channel long enough is that I prefer half pans over tube watercolors, mostly for they're just very, very convenient. Generally, I will buy tube watercolors because they're a little more economical and use them to refill half pans. So that's usually my modus operandi. And I guess there is a third thing you'll know if you watch the channel often. You'll know that I actually generally really dislike student grade paints. Here in the US, student grade paints typically cost comparable, maybe like $10 less, $20 less than their professional grade paints, and you use them up twice as fast and they can't do nearly as much. So generally, I try to focus my reviews on professional grade paints. These are labeled professional. I would say they handle like professional grade paints. On occasion, I do review student grade watercolors. So if you're looking for something that's a little cheaper, oh, I do not like that gold ochre. It is gritty. There's a lot of granulation. It wouldn't work well as like a mixing skin tone. So that one's kind of a big old womp womp. I'd rather just a regular old yellow ochre. And actually, the burnt sienna is a little gritty as well, which is kind of disappointing because one of the nice things about half pan watercolors is realistically you should be able to use them to mix colors. You should be able to use them directly from the half pan if you want, or you could apply them to a palette. So now that we have those mass tone swatches down, I want to do a little bit of color mixing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to lay down some swatches for some optical blending. So we have our warm yellow and we have our cool yellow. And I'm not going to do all the colors for this. We're not doing like a grid. I just want to kind of swatch out the most prevalent mixing colors. And then we got, this is kind of a medium red. But they also included a quin pink, which can be really useful as a very cool sort of red. And then we've got our beautiful ultramarine and our phthalo blue, both of which use the same pigment. And one of the first things I actually want to test for color mixing is I want to try to mix a good darker purple, because we have a red violet here, but it's not really a good purple. So I have a silicone Teflon, sorry, impregnated craft sheet that I do a lot of my work on. So I'm actually mixing some ultramarine and some Quin magenta together. So this is the resulting purple. It's a really nice purple. We should get some really nice granulation out of that. I'm going to mix some of our lemon yellow, our cooler yellow, and grab a little bit of phthalo blue, and that should give us a really nice green. You add a little more yellow and you're going to get a brighter green, so let's go ahead and do that. So what we're doing here, this is manual mixing. So it's when you actually pick up your color and you physically mix the two colors in order to get your tertiary color, your third color. I guess that would be a secondary color, really, because I believe tertiaries are what you get when you mix a secondary and a primary. So then I took some of the warmer yellow and some of the red to get an orange, especially since there isn't an orange already in this set. I do actually prefer sets that don't waste the space necessarily on oranges because they are so easy to mix. And since this set claims to have a Payne's Gray and then it doesn't, we're going to mix a Payne's Gray using burnt sienna and a little bit of ultramarine. That has way too much brown, but at least we know we can mix a nice darker brown. So there's our ultramarine. Let's see. This is what, oh, I'm off camera. Let me move over for you guys. This is more what a Payne's Gray should look like. So it's a mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. And while it does kind of look like what they're calling Payne's Gray up here, you will get some sedimentation, some granulation where some areas are more brown, some areas are more blue, and it's a really beautiful color. It's very easy to mix, but if you use it often like I do in my comic pages, then having it pre-mixed makes it easy to use it quickly. So I'm going to clean up the mess that I've made. I'm going to give all of this a chance to dry, and then I'm going to come back and do some over swatching or apply a second layer of color to our optical color mixes. So our Supervision, almost called it Superior, that is a different brand. Our Supervision watercolors have had a chance to dry. You can see we do get some really beautiful granulation with that Quin magenta and ultramarine blue, purple that we mixed here. You can also see some really nice granulation over here with our homemade, handmade Payne's Gray. So this is really more of a Payne's Gray than this. This is just a black. Maybe it was mislabeled. I don't know. So first off, I want to try lifting these colors. I also want to point out that down in the description below, there is a transcript of this video. It's not a full transcript because I am narrating this live, but I do take notes as I go along. And I know that some folks might have hearing issues, might have processing issues, or sometimes you just want to see like what the pigment information is and you don't want to scrub through the video to find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do the lift test in time lapse and then get back to y'all. Have done our lift test. Most of these colors are fairly granulating. They are also fairly staining. There's a few that lift a little bit, but there isn't really substantial lifting or color pickup. So finally, we got some color mixing to do. Ooh, I got those backwards, I believe. I guess that doesn't really matter because I can go back. There is room to do a swatch on the side. But we've got our cool wet red and our warm yellow and our cool yellow. And this will kind of, I also noticed some color reactivation down there where it was particularly pooled. That might have been an area that didn't get a chance to just 100% dry out yet. And I am noticing that, as with many honey-based watercolors, once the water's really sat on the pans, you do start to get some glopping of the pigments. So that's something you want to be kind of aware of during long painting sessions. Some reactivation down there as well. All right, let's do our blues. That is our ultramarine blue. I'll just go ahead and do it over the red as well. That's our phthalo blue. And I seem to have run out of room to do my yellow over red. No, I did my yellow over red. I don't know what I'm thinking. Ah, I did not do my red over blue. No, that's our cool red. You did kind of pollute into there, but we should still be able to see what we need to see. Then our Quin magenta. And all that's left with that is to let it dry and check back. So in general, it does look like these colors mix pretty well, both optically and manually. Of course, this is also a your mileage may vary situation. In this instance here, we're working at full mass tone, full saturation. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see, but we can see a really dark green here, for example. And we did get some reactivation of color. I'm trying to find over here with this green and over here with the magenta, but I think it's because it's a really humid night this evening, and even though my dehumidifier is running and my fan was going at the time, some of these are going to take a little bit longer to dry. So I think it was still a bit wet when I applied the watercolor, and I just didn't realize it. Something else I want to point out is the Y, the C, and the M in the CMY professional set, which is sometimes a little bit easier to find. These are duplicated in this particular 12 color set. But what I would really recommend is if you've never tried Supervision before and you're not sure you can take my word for it either in this video, which is perfectly fine. I understand that. I am definitely a gotta see for myself kind of person as well. I would recommend you go ahead and you just get this little set here, and this will at least show you the working properties of some of the colors. I mean, that's what convinced me to go ahead and try the larger set, was I really liked what I saw with this little one here. And Supervision makes a range of watercolors. They've got plant-based watercolors, they've got mineral watercolors, they've got those super granulating watercolors, so it looks like they're doing some really cool things, and I look forward to seeing what they have in the future. I'd also like to see a greater presence in the US because, you know, when there are cool things out and about, I'd like to get them here, and I'd love to be able to recommend them to you guys. But I did want to point out that these three colors are also in the larger set, so that take from that what you will. Maybe you'll decide, oh, I don't need this little tester basically because I'm gonna get those colors and I don't like doubling up. Maybe you're like me and you're like, this is real cool. Maybe I'll gift this to someone who doesn't mind gently used watercolors since I have those colors here. But I think it's good to know so you don't end up with duplicates and you don't really know, what to do with them. Sorry, you don't really know what to do with them. So I told you guys we would take a look at the paperwork a little bit later on in the video. Wanted to try doing the swatches first to see if that makes any difference for you guys. So let me know down in the comments below if you actually prefer it that way. I'm going to use Google Translate on my old phone to translate the back. I've had decent results with that. It's not a perfect translation, but considering it's translating on the fly, I'm fairly impressed with what Google Translate is able to do. As I've mentioned in some of my other videos, I've noticed that Google Translate tends to work best if we're working from a photo. So I went ahead and I took a photo of this right here. Now, again, maybe your package is different and maybe the English isn't covered on yours. So, it's definitely a your mileage may vary sort of situation, but it is covered on mine and I only want this text. So I figure it's going to be some pigment information and a lot of address probably. So this is what it says. G product name, Honey Type 12 color half block professional grade solid watercolor paint set. Product number PWM 12. Raw material, country of origin, Italy, the United States. Authorized manufacturer, producer, British Z&S International Group, Chestside Business Centre, London, United Kingdom. Number 39 through 41, Delu Postcard, N145BP. Commission manufacturer, China Hangzhou Jianxi Stationery Co., Limited. Address, 1501, number 8, Jiangdongyan, and I apologize for my pronunciation, Lane, Shangchen District, Hangzhou. Ingredients, and this is what I wanted: gum arabic, toner, acacia honey, beef bile, glycerin. So that's pretty standard for what I've seen from Supervision watercolors. So now that we know what's on the back of the box, and I guess I probably could have actually translated that from the French. I only took 12 years of French. So inside of this, we have a lot. This is one of the reasons why I opted to save this for the end of the video. So we do have a color chart, and the color chart does not seem to include the super granulating colors. It also doesn't seem to include the plant pigment or the mineral pigment, so this is probably just their normal lineup. But we've got a lot of translating to do, I guess. So let's go ahead and get to it. So like I said, photos seem to work better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead. Ah, dang it. There we go. Can't have any glare. Don't like the glare. Also, and I'm kind of curious what this is. I think it's like MSDS information maybe, but I'll try to translate it. I don't have a lot of hope that we'll be able to because it is very small. And I know that Google Translate really, really struggles with a lot of calligraphy based languages. And then these look like, these are neat. I'm going to keep this. You get the color name in English, you get the series, you get the Lightfastness. There's some additional information, I'm not sure what that is, and then you get the pigment number. Actually, let's go ahead. We can do a test just to see. There's some really beautiful colors in this lineup. There's my old friend Google Translate. I really do appreciate it. It honestly makes doing art supplies from other countries way more accessible for someone like me who doesn't know any languages. Okay, so there's the front cover. Natural watercolor gemstones, lapis lazuli, cinnabar, etc. Raw materials are hand developed from ancient Chinese painters' manuscripts, such as full of courage materials cannot. I wonder if they mean like robust, such as full of courage, and by they I mean Google Translate. Cannot change color for thousands of years. Matara wit dagon to something, a bunch of just letters. This album only shows you part of the color information. For more details, please refer to the full range of promotional materials or contact us. And it says certified by the American Society for Testing and Materials art class. So that's good to know. Let's import another. Even if it's wrong a lot. Modern colors are organic or inorganic colors made by modern technology and have detailed data standards such as color material labels and lightfastness. The products use high-grade, environmentally friendly color materials such as knots, spirals, naturals, quinacridones, etc. Meliffa Yinin's main, Lika main, okay. Layered color uses the specific gravity, particle fineness, dyeing power, or other differences of various colors to be mixed to produce, and the layering effect will appear during dyeing. Mica color is composed. Oh, we're talking about the different. Okay. Okay. This would have been better if I'd done one at a time. This makes sense. So these are different lines that they have. So that's maybe the dragon's blood down here, or the Kizial patina. I see. Okay. Mica color is composed of a thin layer of metal oxide coated with the mineral mica to change the light effect of the thin layer of metal oxide, and can be mixed with other watercolor paints. Fluorescent color, okay, so now we're on the opera red. Now I understand what's going on, kind of. Fluorescent color is bright, and high heat resistance is its advantage, but its disadvantage of low light fastness is also significant. I didn't know that Opera is actually heat resistant. Adding other high light fastness materials can improve the light fastness. Animal and plant colors are made of natural animal and plant extracts or secretions. They have high transparency. Some colors have high dyeing power and other special chemical pigments. Before the appearance of special chemical pigments, Chinese and Western painters used quite a lot. And then we're on to, I think, dragon's blood. Chinese mineral color is taken from natural minerals, natural gemstones, lapis lazuli, cinnabar, azurite, malachite, etc. The raw materials are hand developed. The production method is derived from the manuscripts of ancient Chinese painters. So that's pretty cool. I appreciate that they talk about their different lines and some of the qualities within those lines. Fine color. Supervision is made of a variety of high durability and high quality color materials, which have excellent disease resistance. I don't know that disease resistance is super important with watercolor, but all right. Which have excellent disease resistance and durability, making the appearance of the work long and bright. The detailed research on the discontinuous list of pigments will make the pigment load more powerful. A shadow and higher pure. Okay, so this is where we're at. We're at pure. The use of pure natural estrus extracts as the explosive agent of the wish, in line with European and American safety standards. Top level. According to international standards, this product has a high degree of exposure and durability, and some products reach the 8th level. Zhongxi watercolor has modern colors, yellow light colors, mica colors, color separations, animal and plant colors, Chinese mineral colors, and other series for selection. The unique compression process in unique, uncommon canned, makes the pigment block denser, more durable, and consumes less. The ideal material formula in medium-high color material content, stronger water solubility, more convenient for storage and retrieval of pigments, rich color. The medium pigment is thick and stable, the hue is clear and rich, and it has a wide operating range. We have the paperwork. We shall, ooh, that's upside down. Can it do it? Kinda. Good luck, Google. I'm sorry. I'm gonna probably regret doing both of them together. Yeah, you know, oh yes. Yes, doing it like this is like just word salad. But it does seem to be like a contract or like paperwork, because it does talk about non-toxic environmental protection regulations, certificate of Lightfastness. Oh, because it's upside down. Oh, oh, Google. And then finally, we have our little sample. I'm just curious about this one. I want to see what, let's just do the white. Okay. China white. Is this all you got to say? No. No, not what I wanted. Shell pink, $2. I'm jealous. F7, it doesn't translate some of it, so maybe this is the best. Okay, 1548, so that's the color number. Shell pink, $2. F7, opaque, and then the pigment numbers. Okay, so somewhere in here is the price. I assume that's this. And then there's also the opacity. Good to know. Google Translate. I'm proud of you today. So I like the materials that they've included. I think I'm going to keep track of this and maybe mark off some. I mean, I wish it was easier to get more of these half pans. I sometimes find AliExpress to be a little confusing. Not always, but sometimes it's hard to tell if I'm getting the tubes or the half pans or what, or if I'm getting half pans that were filled from tubes by somebody else, or if they're the official half pans. So, that's just on me. I don't know about y'all. I actually do give some advice for shopping on AliExpress in one of my other videos. I think it is in the... It's either in my second It Came From AliExpress watercolor paper review, or it's in the first Supervision Super Swatch Off. One of the two. But I kind of just generally share my advice for shopping on AliExpress. And it's not like particularly in-depth advice. It basically boils down to be patient. Order from vendors you can trust or that people can recommend to you. And there's certain brands that are manufactured in China. You're not getting a knockoff. That's their variation. Like Winsor & Newton has a special Chinese formulation for the Chinese market. And I'd actually really like to try it because I have tried Marie's Chinese watercolor and I've tried Winsor & Newton aimed at Western audience. So it'd be cool to try something aimed at a completely different audience than me. But I'm definitely going to probably keep this. It does look like some of these might be the super granulating, but I can't tell. And I also don't recognize any of the super granulating names in here. I do have a few of the super granulating ones, but it does show some of the shading and some of the granulation. So that's cool. I appreciate that they included this. And they honestly included this even folded up more in the little 3-piece set. I like when companies send you their information, whether you're buying a little or you're buying a lot. It just kind of shows that they actually care about you as a customer and they'd like to make your experience better. What is my verdict of the technically 14-piece Supervision half pan palette? I really do like these watercolors. I liked them a lot the first time I swatched the initial 3, the C, the Y, and the K. I think they make some really cool stuff. I know Paul Rubens is making some similar stuff, like Paul Rubens is now offering the super granulating watercolors as well as the mineral pigments. I don't know who did it first. I know I saw the Supervision ones on AliExpress first, so that's all I got. But I really like that they're trying to add some variety to the watercolor market. And I would love to see Western stores carrying these. It'd be cool to be able to go to my favorite local brick and mortar, David's Art Supply, and be able to pick up a palette. I'd probably be paying a little bit more than I would pay on AliExpress, but you know, it's not only just it's going to the company, they're getting paid, but it's also helping out a local business, so that's pretty cool. I haven't been burnt too many times buying art supplies specifically on AliExpress. If I went specific, but I also know when I'm looking at like stuff that's just drop shipped or not very good. So I like these. I'd like to be able to buy more half pans for these. I find AliExpress to be a little bit intimidating for buying half pans of particular brands. I don't know if I'm just not seeing something or what, but I do have difficulty sometimes finding what I want or ordering multiples of different colors from one vendor. I guess I just find that aspect tedious because you can't just like select from like Dick Blick, you know, you can go to their site and you can select all the colors you want to buy at one time and then add them to your cart. I feel like with AliExpress, I have to do it one at a time and reload the page. But maybe the app is better. So the downside is this particular palette is not, I don't think it's even available on AliExpress anymore. Maddie asked about it and I tried to find it and I could not find it. I found similar palettes. So what I think is up with this palette is I think this is an anniversary palette. It's not intended to be like always available. And I just happened to catch it right place, right time. I mean, some of the packaging leads me to believe. Now they do have a larger set for around $90. I think that's the 48 color set. And they have a smaller set than that with the wood veneer on the front that is less expensive. So that's probably the usual set. This is a good little set. It has some interesting color choices, I would say. They're color choices I wouldn't necessarily make, but I appreciate the inclusion of them. And I also appreciate that they didn't waste my time and waste my space by including a titanium white, because I never use watercolor titanium white. So the downside is you're gonna have, if you order this from AliExpress, now maybe you live in an area where there's, you know, a lot of variety. There's maybe a Chinatown in your area and a local store there might carry it, or you may see this in your own local brick and mortar art supply shop. I know David sometimes carries stuff that I've only ever seen on AliExpress or Amazon. So, you know, maybe they will. You can request that they start carrying Paul Rubens and Supervision watercolors, and that might be something they look into. But I would like to see more Western market saturation for Supervision, because I do think these are pretty high quality watercolors. Of course, we're not going to know 100% for certain until the field test, so I hope you guys will keep an eye out for that. Also, you're gonna have to wait a month if you order this because it does have to come from AliExpress, and a month is usually the shortest wait time I've noticed. Also, I know shipping from Asia is going up. I don't know if it's gone up yet, but I know it is going up. So that may also affect your decision as to whether or not these are worth it for you. Now, would I say these are just hands down, this particular set is just hands down better than some of the Western watercolors or the watercolors that are commonly available in the US that I reviewed? Not necessarily. I think the Paul Rubens, which are a little bit easier to find, are equally great. I really like the tube Paul Rubens. These were really pretty good for half pans. So, you know, it's a your mileage may vary sort of situation. But I do like them, and I do think they are fairly high quality watercolors. My biggest complaint is the gold ochre and the burnt sienna. We're throwing a lot of weird granulation and just grittiness. When I swatch them, they seem to be doing okay here for this little color map. So hopefully I just remove some surface detritus and they won't be a problem in the future. Honestly, so grateful to AliExpress and to Google Translate for making art supplies across the world a little bit more accessible and a little bit more attainable for, you know, people like myself. I appreciate having the opportunity to purchase art supplies that I might not ever see in a brick and mortar store. AliExpress has given me the chance to try a bunch of different things that I never would have tried because they probably wouldn't have made it to me here in Southeast Louisiana. So I am truly grateful that I do get to try out different art supplies. I'm also grateful that they ship to countries that Amazon often won't ship to, which means when I recommend something from AliExpress, my friends in South America are often able to try it out as well, which is really cool. It makes this big world feel a little bit smaller and a little bit more friendly. And I wanted to point that out because I do think that's something worth being thankful for. And I'm really glad that Dingy seems to be a really trustworthy vendor. It seems like they sell high quality watercolors. They carry the superior watercolors, like that weird watercolor watch I reviewed a while back. They carry Paul Rubens watercolors and watercolor papers, which I've really come to enjoy. And they carry Supervision products, which I have fallen in love with. So if you're looking for a vendor that you can trust, I have never had a bad experience with Dingy. So they're who I would recommend. But I do want to say thank you to AliExpress and to Google Translate for making this a lot more accessible for me. I had a lot of fun reviewing the Supervision 12 watercolor metal pan half pan set in their professional line. These use honey as a binder. I received 12 colors plus an additional 2. Unfortunately, I believe this is no longer available because I do think this is a special anniversary set. But Supervision does make their palettes available, and they are available through the Dingy shop. They're also available through AliExpress. So if you enjoyed this review, if you found it helpful, useful, and informative, and you want to give superior watercolors a shot, this set might not be available, but they do have other sets. I've also reviewed other Supervision products in the past, including their super granulating colors and their mineral colors. I'll link those in the cards as well as in the description. I think those are really cool, and I hope you guys will check them out. So if you guys found this video to be helpful, useful, and informative, leave me a big ol' thumbs up. Let other people know that you guys enjoyed this video. It would really mean the world to me if you took a moment to share it with your friends and help me find new artists who are interested in learning more about art supplies. I really would appreciate it, and I can't do it without you guys. And if you're new here, why don't you take a moment and click the subscribe button and join me. I update twice a week. I try to update with tutorials on Tuesdays, and on Saturdays I try to update with reviews and with field tests, and then on Sundays I share my weekly studio vlog. So if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, if you found this fun, consider subscribing for even more fun. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I also want to send out a huge thank you to my amazing patrons, because frankly, this would not be possible without their support. They are the sponsors of this channel, and I really, truly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. You'll find their names listed at the end of the video. It was wonderful hanging out with you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you guys again really soon. Bye, guys.